One part of me is strategy, Bernie. One part of me by design is my personality is motivation and encouragement and then implementation. We need that trifecta. And I hope today, as we're talking vulnerable in the moment, that this gives you the gung-ho to just start now because you're doing amazing stuff. Just own it, my friend.
Welcome to the Midlife Fulfilled podcast. Are you over 40 and ready to truly thrive? Well, on this podcast, we go deep on ways to thrive across the 5 pillars of midlife: health, fitness, career, relationships, and legacy. I'm Bernie Borges, midlife advocate, life coach, and your host. Subscribe now and get ready to thrive. Michelle B. Griffin, welcome back to the Midlife Fulfilled podcast.
Thank you, Bernie. It's great to be here again.
It's great to have you back. You were my guest on episode 106, which was in 2023, so roughly 2 years ago. And I'm thrilled to have you back for another maximum episode. And we're going to kind of continue the conversation on what we discussed on episode 106, sort of the evolution of that. And because it has evolved and you've got so much to share on that. But first, I want to ask you if your ears ring every day, because I mention you just about every day to people. Do your ears ring?
Well, the irony of that is if it's on the visibility is not vanity thing, I just got a great LinkedIn DM from someone you mentioned and she reached out. I'm so grateful for that. So hopefully it's good.
So that's actually one of the two things that I say, and I give you full credit for it, Michelle. That's why I'm saying your ears must be ringing, because I always say to people when it's relevant in a conversation, I say, you really should embrace PYOT. And I said, that's not my invention. That comes directly from Michelle B. Griffin, and I suggest they follow you. PYOT is put yourself out there, because visibility is not vanity. Visibility is value.
Yes.
And I want to continue that conversation because you have evolved that into what you call own your lane. And lane is an acronym.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a model. It's a thought leadership model. So take us through, maybe give us a little bit of the backstory. Like, how did you evolve to the own your lane thought leadership model?
Well, thank you again. And I so appreciate all the kind words, that you spread the message, because it truly is a bigger professional purpose that I share and I, talked about 2 years ago. That originated because last year I was writing the Own Your Lane book, which morphed from my 7-step framework, which I can't remember if I talked about on 106, and I brought it down to 4 steps. And it's all with the mantra of put yourself out there. It's the plan. It's the visibility roadmap that takes that whole mantra of visibility is not vanity. Visibility is being valuable. And it shows you how to have that exact roadmap, equip you so that you have that clarity, the confidence, and even in midlife, that calling for what is next if you are finding yourself in that predicament. And so it worked out perfectly, and I'm blessed to have just 2 weeks ago do a TEDx talk at my alma mater, FSU, on this very topic. That'll be coming out in the next couple months, hopefully. But this is an area I'm really passionate about. And now we have part 2, the actual steps that you can take. Now, I know with your midlife fulfilled, you've got your roadmap, so to speak. It just makes life a lot easier when you know something, you believe in it, and you want to do it, and you have the exact steps to get out there and do what you're bringing value to the world in.
Exactly. Now, I do want to frame up a little context here, because for my listener can be in any one of the following scenarios. They might be a business owner, they might be an entrepreneur, they might be in corporate, but they also might be somewhere in transition. Mm-hmm. As you know, Michelle, there's a lot of in transition people right now, a lot of corporate downsizing, government downsizing, a lot of people. I'm sure you come across them. I trip across them pretty much daily. And this is why I talk about your PYOT and your visibility is not vanity but value with these people because they are thrust into a scenario where, they were kind of comfortable, they were in a job, and now they're looking for. So whether the listener is in transition or they're a business owner or an entrepreneur, maybe the only individual that may not necessarily resonate with this, and certainly prove me wrong, Michelle, if that's the case, is someone who's just retired, not working at all, that kind of thing. Then maybe the visibility and own your lane thing may not apply. But again, I'm open to you proving me wrong. But I wanted to, again, give it that context before you begin to unpack the own your lane framework.
Well, no, I think it's beautiful, but I think we're all at the end of the day, no matter what age, stage, or season we're in, we all need a purpose in life. We all want to have a calling, and being visible is in that value takes us to what we're doing. So you're bringing value in your business, your leadership role. If you're retired, maybe you're volunteering or whatever it is. We're stronger humans and more fulfilled humans when we're doing something. And that was the whole basis of my TED Talk. I don't want to spill the beans on it, but it's bringing value to people with your unique take on it. And I believe that when we get to a certain point in life, and this happened to me too, you kind of go, is that all it is? Maybe you feel that in your role now, nothing has to really transition, but we all have that inner little voice sometimes that comes up and like, hey, what is this? So Own Your Lane has many lenses. Of course, it's a visibility thing, but it really helps you go the inside, the internal clarity. And it starts real quick. I'll really make it quick and easy is launch your vision. Where you are right now, what is it that you want? What is it that you really want? We need to name it to claim it. So I want everyone to first say, where do I want to go? You may not know exactly, but we go deeper. And then I have you go with your North Stars. What is my professional purpose pathway? And that is when some days, and this is for me too, and my talk said this, when we don't feel like doing something, when you realize, hey, I have this value that is other people need it keeps me on that path. And so that is what's my North Star, taking me to where I want to go and where I need to go. So we get that dialed in. Then we have articulate your edge. What is it that you bring? Uncover your unique strengths and gifts and talents. And let's face it, sometimes we're so busy, the blur of life, we have to unpack that. You do such a great job with that in your framework. So we really understand who we are, and then the edge and depending on the context, it brings, business, corporate, retired, whoever, we understand this is me. I'm owning who I am. I'm so proud. I have clarity. I have confidence. I have my calling now. Then we go into launch your brand. Get that visibility. Now, your brand's going to look a little bit different in the context, but we want you to be visible. You can't help anyone if they don't know you or they know how you help them. And that's very important to articulate. In the professional setting, I teach this with LinkedIn. That's a big part of my brand too. So we get that dialed in. You're aligned. Everyone knows wherever you go, you're aligned with all this beautiful stuff. And then E, I have, because it's a thought leadership model too, elevate your authority. And that means, look, a lot of my clients sometimes want to do legacy work. They have this beautiful message, this body of work. I help them get the strategic visibility with my PR background. Maybe some want to speak, they want to write books, they want to just whatever, bring that out into a more thoughtful way. And I also help them codify it. So it has many lenses and many takes depending on, but at the end of the day, it's really helping you own your unique strengths. Take that value that you have, your gifts, your message, and bring it out there, PYOT, with a plan and a purpose for someone else. So,
okay. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, Michelle, you didn't see this coming. I didn't tell you beforehand that I was going to do this, but here it is. We're in the middle of the recording and we're going to go in the moment because honestly, it just popped into my head as I was listening to you unpack the Own Your Lane framework. Today, in my world, I position myself as the fulfillment architect, and I do that in the context of working with organizations to help those organizations develop a leadership framework or implement the leadership framework that I call fulfillment-centric leadership so that those leaders can lead their employees to achieve personal and professional fulfillment. And then the benefits of that are higher retention and greater productivity, which is improved business results. So that's a service offering that I do today in the form of speaking and workshops. But my vision, Michelle, is bigger than that. My vision is to really advocate for fulfillment across every sector of society so that whether it's business, whether it's nonprofits, whether it's education institutions, or government that everyone is embracing this concept of fulfillment. So now that I've just shared with you and my listener this vision, and I characterize it as sort of long term, meaning it's not something I expect to happen in 2026. I don't know exactly when it'll happen, but I think it's going to take a little time to evolve to that. But now that you know that vision, coach me, guide me. What do I need to be thinking about to achieve that vision?
Well, thank you for sharing that. And that's an incredible vision. And yes, the world needs that. You have incredible expertise. And the beginning of this podcast was think about how far you've come. So this is absolutely just the perfect journey to something even greater and more fulfilling, not just for you, but for the world as a whole. So you've got your vision. In fact, one of these days, I'm just saying this all thing, we need to workshop this because my specialty is one-on-one workshops and we just get in the moment. So I say, write that down. Write that down. In fact, when I do my one-on-one strategy workshops, I'm big into physical. We write that down. I even say maybe make a date, maybe in 5 years. Is that doable? Is 5 years doable? Just you have to put something. I say in my TED Talk, someday is not a day. It's not a day on a calendar. We can't just keep saying whenever. So anyway, I want you at least to say, I think in 2025, in 5 years at least, I can have something semblance. I was part of an organization, my previous role, that started from zero, from nothing. Grew it over 2 decades, and it was just an idea they had, and now it's become an international thing. So you just don't underestimate the power of an idea and the need out there. So absolutely have that. Now that's your personal vision as well, and it ties to your personal goals. Let's talk about A, articulate your difference. I would have you start sketching that out. Let me ask you this. Have you ever, other than just saying in your head, I want to do this, and maybe having some data, have you ever written this down, what this would look like on paper?
Well, I have, but high level.
Okay.
I haven't written, let's just say that it's on one page.
Okay.
I haven't really written it down, I think, the way that you intend it to do. And just you saying that is enough to influence me that I've got to go do that.
Absolutely. I want to see it in a workbook binder or like we used to do our PowerPoints at work, whatever. I want to see it as a plan that is on your desk every day and you're working toward it because everything you're doing now absolutely is working toward it. And so the way I work with my clients, we get really kind of granular, but I want to see this written out. I know some areas are going to be a lot more synthesized and more specific as time goes on, but until that becomes a concrete plan, 5 years, it's just going to roll into someday. So I want to see this. I want to sketch out the world needs and all the things. And I know you're a marketing genius and that's your thing. So you're not going to have a problem with that, some things. But, from the positioning of where that needs, we'd look into some of this stuff and what's out there and stake your claim. I'd even have, get the domain and just start it and just start talking about it.
That I've done.
Okay.
I have a domain.
Okay, you do have a domain. You see, you're making all these are one step closer. I would start telling more people your vision. I mean, other than me, and now we're, telling all your incredible listeners and viewers. So I say the sooner you put it out there, make it happen, the sooner it's going to come to you. So we're putting steps in motion. So I would build out all of what that is, and how is the capacity are you serving people? I'm sure you have that. We don't need to get granular, but I would absolutely start talking about it. Telling your story, why it's needed. I mean, you have everything, Bernie. I would even say, why wait? Why are we waiting so long? I know you have other projects, but I know. But this is world class. Okay, this is important.
So what I'm hearing then is, I think the big thing I'm hearing more than anything else is own it and own it now.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that includes not just writing it down, which I've written it down, and like I said, I've got a domain, but I haven't written what I would characterize as like a plan.
Yeah.
I haven't put a timetable to it. And if I'm honest, vulnerably honest with you and my listener, it's because I'm buried in the day-to-day of my current business services offering. And I've convinced myself, and really I think I'm hearing from you wrongly, that it's more of a long-term plan, and I really should be working toward it today.
Can I even ask you, why not even call it something now and everything you're doing now under what you're doing with your current new path? That's part of it. Just make it part of it. Because when you told me that, I think you have actually mentioned this idea to me when we, did some strategy talking as friends, a couple months ago, and you told me that, and it just reminded me today, telling me, and I got so excited to hear it. So there's no reason why you can't bring it now and just start talking about, this growing idea, because we know there's needs. You have all the data. And the world, I mean, we have more 60, not that you just do a 65, I mean, I know 40 plus, but I think there's a stat that there are more 65-year-old plus in the world than any other demographic or something. I know you're data driven, so you probably have heard that, but we're just now getting more and more into midlife every single day, right? And we are missing that gap. And in the leadership, I know the leadership business lens is even more important. So, one part of me is strategy, Bernie. One part of me by design is my personality, is motivation and encouragement, and then implementation. We need that trifecta. And I hope today, as we're talking vulnerable in the moment, that this gives you the gung-ho to just start now, because you're doing amazing stuff. Just own it, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. So, okay, so let's get away from me and not make this all about me, but I wanted to share that with you and get your input, and thank you for that. It's been very motivating for me. What about, as you see people out there and you're talking to them about own your lane, what are the biggest obstacles? And is it more at the individual level, or can this also apply to an organization, any kind of an organization? It doesn't have to be a for-profit business. It can be a nonprofit, or, like you said, volunteering in communities and that kind of thing. Is it both organizations and individuals, or is it one more than the other?
I think it could be both. When I work, and that's what I work with. I work with subject matter experts who really need to own that thing that they want to take out into the world, and I help them. And also with companies, and especially because now organizations are realizing that having a forward-focused person or leader founder brand is really good for the bottom line, and we need, in the age of AI, more human connection. So it has a lot of nuances and lens. One of the main things, and I didn't really touch about this in my TEDx talk, and I kind of sort of wish I did, but it's still, I'm writing a accompanying mini book about this right now, so I'm going to put this in there. This happened to me too, is because, when we're completely driven, companies do this too, we start looking to see what the other people do. And then we crash and burn. We go down holes, and then we start we imitate what they're doing, or say, oh, that's working for them. We need to do that. And then you're absolutely diluting what makes you unique, special, and different, right? And so I feel like there's so many brilliant people and companies that really need to own and learn. And I'm a big into positioning too, personal positioning, company positioning. How are you different so that the right people get to you, right? You're not just generic. And in the B2B space, there's a lot of generic. You know that, right? It's jargony and generic. So I really want them to own what makes them unique and different, how they can take their value and serve either as an individual or an organization. So it really helps you not worry about what other people are doing so much, because that's where we go awry. Let's talk about, just real quick, like, Nike, Starbucks, they all started doing other people and they lost their core uniqueness. All right. And they're all coming back to Sitter. And we could probably have a bunch of case studies on that. They lost what made them special.
Interesting. Okay. So then how much of it is execution versus mindset?
Well, mindset's going to always be the L that takes you through it. So it's almost like a daily thing. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, right? I take what I call the daily mindset vitamin. We're wired as humans to, we want something, and then that inner stuff gets it. Mindset is a big one, but you need to have the plan, the strategy, and then you got to do the daily things or the whatever things to move toward that. It's not a one and done. It's a complete evolution. But when you have your goals, you have your personal or professional purpose, and then you have, hey, this is what makes me different. I'm going to own that. I'm clear and confident. I have this competitive advantage. It just lifts you up into a whole different thing. So you can get out and execute in the brand stage. You're going to get out and share that value. And, and that's where you can really dissect branding and marketing there. And then take it to a whole nother level with strategic visibility. That's going to keep broadening the circles. And so I help people do it by giving them this plan, either in the thought leadership side or personal motivation. But let's all go back to why we're here. Put yourself out there, but being visible is being valuable.
Love that. And something you said earlier in the conversation, and that is, we all need a purpose. And sometimes we don't have clarity on what that purpose is. And that's of course part of your framework is to gain that clarity. One of the things that I do, and I want to get your thoughts on to what extent, this is part of the process, is I kind of mix together two mindset practices. One is, as a person of faith, I believe in the power of prayer. So I'm a prayerful person, and I pray about a lot of things, including my own vision and my business, as well as many other things. But I also combine that with affirmations, where I've
Mhm.
got affirmations that I've written down and I say them aloud. I literally say them aloud. I don't mean I shout them, and I don't just read them. I say them aloud, and I bring those two together, and literally at the same time, not literally the same time, but I mean like in the same sit down session where I'm just focused on that, and that is feeding my mind, and it's really helpful. And I just want to get your perspective on like practices that you recommend for people to develop that mindset that's needed.
Absolutely. And I'm a very faith driven person. So I balance the faith and then the affirmation. And I do it, I just coined it like no other way. I take daily vitamins like most of us, right? But I had to say I need a daily mindset vitamin because it is so easy to we gotta do it daily. And so I'll do my faith-based stuff, but I have affirmations. And one of the things I do, find what works for you, like saying it or have, post-it notes, or I have it written down on little index cards and I'll put it around my house. But I walk just about every day, weather permitting. And usually when I get on my walk, I have some affirmations that I like, that I whatever, it could change every day depending on my mood, and I'll listen to it. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending, and it just resets. And I notice if I'm out of town or traveling and I get off, it just brings me back to center. We all have different ways of intaking and learning. So you have to have that visual reminder, that verbal reminder, or probably both, right? So just take your daily mindset vitamin, whatever that is for you.
Love that. Love that. Now, tell me more about the series that you're writing
Mhm.
because you're doing this across a series, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So I'll bring you up to speed. So I have to have public accountability because ideation is my number two Clifton strengths. Empathy, thankfully, I found out was number one, so that made me happy. But ideation, which is a blessing and a curse, it's a blessing for my clients because I give them all these, help them codify all their work, and yay. Okay, but anyway, so I went to start writing the book last year. You probably saw me announce it, and then I just kind of hit the wall. Like it was just so much. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start the Own Your Lane book series. And one day, the Own Your Lane flagship book will be out on all the stories of people who've applied it. But a lot of people, especially the business executive, leader, whomever, we're so busy. We have information overload. So I just say, I'm going to give one quick answer or solution in these little mini books. And so I started the process with the Position Yourself Planner, which introduces Own Your Lane, and it's got the questions. You can download the workbook. I even have AI prompts that'll help you like tabulate your answers and all that. So I geeked out on all that because I do love AI to help us process and, not write for us, but process our stuff. So that's the first one. The next one I just started this today, as we record this, the first of a month, is the accompanying book on the TEDx talk because Bernie, I worked with someone who helped me, and there were times practicing that speech I started to cry because it's such a vulnerable story and what I'm here to do in this world. And I think everyone learns and reads, and I just want people to have the backside of the book. There were some things I had to cut from the talk, and there's stories in it. Because on the work I do, before you can start Own Your Lane and getting visible, you've got to put yourself out there. But it's a mindset thing. And this will really, it'll tell us my story, how I overcame the judgment monster is what I named it. And I'm really excited for people to hear it when it comes out.
I'm excited for you. I can't wait for it to come out. And maybe by the time this publishes, it'll be out. We'll see. We'll see. I do want to come back to the whole PYOT, put yourself out there thing, because it's obviously the foundation of your framework. What I hear a lot, Michelle, I'm sure you hear this as well, is, it's just not my personality. I don't feel comfortable putting myself out there. What am I going to say? Do I have anything to say? Like a lot of sort of, I don't know if imposter syndrome is the right way to kind of frame that up, but just a lot of people who are just very reticent because they feel like it's not really the way they kind of show up in
Mhm.
life.
Oh, well, I can tell you 100%. I agree with you. Like in the most extroverted person in this world. But ever since I was a kid, I'm kind of private. And I, got my master's, undergraduate master's in PR because I love helping people tell their stories. I don't like talking about myself. So I can relate. It's uncomfortable for me too. But the message I buried in I'm not going to give away the inline, but the message in the TEDx talk shifts that for you. So, I mean, not to plug the TEDx, but it's really going to help you reshift that. But at the end of the day, let's break up you have value. Like no one sees the world like you see it. No one has the experiences, and you absolutely need to be out there for that person who needs you. And it's not about you. I mean, it's of you, but you have something that someone absolutely needs. So if you're putting yourself out there, you are, of course, going to help yourself, but this person needs you. And so that's my professional purpose. I know what my purpose is. It's to help hidden experts, trusted experts who are under-recognized and either by design or default become visible so that the world can benefit, or the person they're here for, from their transformation, their solution, their message, their story, their framework, whatever it is. At the end of the day, that makes the world a bigger, stronger, better place. And so I get teary-eyed because I have to think about that. And it's like, Michelle, who cares if you're in or out? No one cares about you. They care about how you're going to help them. And that's what it's
Mhm.
about.
Yeah. And that nails it. I have shared that with others. Again, I always source you for it, Michelle. That's why I asked you at the beginning if your ears ring, because, I said, here's what my friend Michelle has taught me. If you don't put yourself out there, then you're depriving
Yeah.
someone of whatever expertise, whatever gift you have, whatever God-given gift you have
Yeah.
for the world. You're depriving them if you're not putting yourself out there.
And I start my TEDx off pretty kind of a little somber. And in fact, at the reception after, this college student, because it was at FSU, she came and she goes, Michelle, your opening line, it really got my attention. And it's make you wake up, and it's the whole thing. And I don't want to give it away, but it's exactly what you just said. And we all are unique, incredible beings that there's no one like us. And we've all heard that kind of cliche stuff. But it's truly what we need. And you think about this. I wrote this in the LinkedIn Brandy book. We don't listen to one song or write one book. We're always craving new perspective, new ideas. And so yours could be a whole different lens that someone has never heard before. Haven't you written or seen or read something so many times and then someone says it just the right way and it's like, oh, I get it. So you could be that person. So put yourself out there.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I want to cover before we wrap up, and we're getting close to that. It occurred to me just now that somebody listening may not know what a TEDx talk is. So why don't you put a little definition to that? Because
Yes.
it's a big deal.
Yes. And it was truly an honor, a privilege and an honor. And was not about like, oh, that's so good for you. No, it's to share that message. But TED is technology, education, and design or something. The TED Talks, I started in the early 80s. And long story short, they franchised these TEDx talks. So universities usually, or places or cities can host these, and they are an idea we're spreading. That's their tagline. And so the 7 speakers in our event had incredible diverse ideas, but it's truly not a sales pitch, not a business talk. It is an idea that makes you think, hopefully takes an action. And so there's usually 17 or less. Mine was about 14. And so they're just a quick little message on how maybe you could think about the world a little bit differently.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, congratulations. I can't wait to see it. I know it's going to be
Thank
fantastic.
you.
Michelle, let's do this again, meaning, and I want to invite you to share with my listener where they can connect with you, learn more about you, and just get into your world.
Well, thank you so much again. It is truly an honor and always fun to come and talk with you. And to have an encore is even more special. So everything surrounds with Michelle B. Griffin. And this lands pretty well because I'll say the B stands for brand. And so michellebgriffin.com, you'll get to have access to, I have 2 podcasts, the 2 books and counting, some resources. If you go to Michelle B. Griffin /LinkedIn visible, I do that because sometimes I'm talking about LinkedIn, but it's really a visibility masterclass on put yourself out there. It's 30 minutes, me just talking to you in the ear. So if you're working out, walking the dog, it's a kind of a lot.
And you're very good at that. You're very popular, but you're also extremely humble and accessible. So I want my listener to know that you mean that. You're very sincere when you say you're inviting them to connect with you. And I just want to thank you for coming back and sharing your message. It's a powerful message, and I think a lot of people benefit from it, Michelle. So you are doing a really good thing for the world, helping individuals and organizations. And again, thank you so much for joining me on this maximum episode of the Midlife Fulfilled podcast.